Okay, I'd like to get started by welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone online as well. Today is what we call our Pali Canon and English study group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is a little bit later. We start each one of our classes with meditation because this helps you to train your mind. There's more than just meditation that you would need in order to fully learn the teachings of the Buddha and practice them to be able to get to enlightenment. But meditation is an important part of your journey to be able to train your mind to get to enlightenment. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll no longer experience any discontent feelings. You won't experience anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated by training the mind. Oftentimes people think it's the outside world that's causing these feelings, but it's actually being caused by what's going on inside one's own mind. The Buddha figured out how to get to a point where your mind no longer experiences those feelings. And meditation is an important part of that. So that's why we start each one of our classes with meditation. The way that we do this is I'm going to start with some chanting in order to be able to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, they would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So it was used as a learning tool, as a learning device. So you can see with chanting that there isn't anything mystical or magical with it. There's none of that kind of stuff. It's not a prayer or worship or anything like that. If you've been exposed to those kinds of things related to the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't the teachings of the Buddha. He never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, prayer, or any of those kinds of things. So today we use chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you would like to chant along and experience that benefit, the chanting sheets are over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to a chanting sheet, and you'll be able to chant along during the meditation as we ease into the meditation. For those of you guys online, you'll find this on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books and then just scroll about 2/3 of the way down the page and you'll see it there. If you end up getting one of these chanting sheets, you're going to see the English translations of the chants. And if you read those, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because he wouldn't have walked around and said, hey, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, right? He wouldn't have created that kind of thing because that would be ego if you did that. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't put yourself above people and look down on people anymore. And you also don't put yourself below people and all shaken up when you're around people. You just think of everybody as being equal. So the Buddha wouldn't have gone around and told people and taught people to chant to him. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other feelings to this peaceful and joyful mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you might actually have a lot of appreciation and gratitude for that person too. So that's why I think these chants came from his students, either during his life or after his death. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance where I'm going to be essentially teaching you or instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's quiet and we're all meditating. During this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here could cough or sneeze. This is all normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence and you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. This is what's causing the mind to experience these feelings, is that it's craving permanence. But you live in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing around you. So you would like to get to a point where you understand that, of course, the world is impermanent. When you hear that sound, that's normal. That sound's going to arise, it's going to change, and then it's going to fade away. So if you're in meditation understanding that, you can be at ease and be peaceful, understanding this is the way that the world works. But if you crave permanence and you want it to be permanently silent, and you hear a sound, your mind will become annoyed or frustrated. So this is what you can train your mind to do, is where you understand impermanence and things are constantly changing. After that period of time of quietness, where everyone here at the temple and everyone online is meditating, we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand what the Pali Canon and English study group is. And then we'll actually do that together and give you guys an opportunity to learn some of the teachings of the Buddha. Because as I mentioned, you can't just meditate your way to enlightenment. There's other things that you need as well. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like having a tool belt that you apply the different tools at different times. So there's various courses, classes, retreats that you can learn these different positions to be able to help you. But oftentimes people are starting out in the seated position. So I'll share some guidance with you on the seated position to be able to help you to kind of get acquainted with how to meditate in a comfortable way. Understand that what I'm going to share with you are suggestions or recommendations. There's multiple ways to sit. There's not just one way to sit. Because if there was one way to sit, that would be permanence, and we don't live in that world. So you could consider what I'm sharing with you as recommendations to think about and that you might choose to use, but you can really sit however you like, as long as the body's comfortable. You're not interested in it being painful, you're not interested in it being luxurious, but instead comfortable. And if that's something that I'm sharing with you, great. But if you come up with something on your own, that's fine too. You can use that as well. So you could be sitting on the floor or in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this can impede the circulation in the lower body and cause pain. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put that into his lap. If that's comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true for anybody in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting here in a chair with my legs crossed. So this is an option for you as well. And then your hands and arms can go wherever you like if you're sitting in a chair or something like that. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect. With the sternum up and the shoulders back, this will help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind can be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back. Because what meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. So that having the sternum up and the shoulders back will help you to be able to do that. It'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to get started with the chanting. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Bhutang Mahakewanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakewato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato สัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสเอมะเควาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโพตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. As I was sharing, this is our Pali Canon and English study group, which I'm going to explain to you guys what that is here in a moment. But let me just share with you guys that this meditation is called breathing mindfulness meditation. This is a primary form of training that the Buddha used in addition to other things in order to be able to help his mind to be able to get to enlightenment, because it addresses the underlying problem that is in the mind that's causing these feelings. Getting to enlightenment is to eliminate anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other feelings that I was mentioning. Guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. An enlightened being doesn't experience that stuff anymore. You'll notice that the mind's focused, concentrated. You'll have clarity and deep memory because your mind will be performing optimally by the time you get to enlightenment. You'll notice that all your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming, that you don't have this bitterness, harshness, and hostility in your mind any longer. Instead, you're being loving and kind and warm and gentle with the people around you. In the unenlightened state, you'll find that very difficult. And you'll actually think that when you're being bitter and harsh and hostile, that other people are causing it, but it's actually coming from your own mind. It's physically impossible for anybody to cause any feelings in your mind. Nobody can insert anything into your mind. It's your own mind that's choosing to do that. It's your own mind choosing to be bitter and harsh and hostile with others. So the teachings of the Buddha are to be able to help you get to this point where you're living the ideal life, where all your relationships are harmonious, where you're not even in a bad mood anymore. Your mind is focused. You have concentration and clarity. You don't have the anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings. So there's multiple trainings that you need, because the mind, what it's doing is it's having craving, desire, attachment. It's holding on. It's craving for things to be a certain way. The mind's longing, yearning, and you can only be happy when you get what you want or what you expect. But when you don't get what you want or what you expect, your mind experiences anger, sadness, frustration, or others. If you think back to when we were children, we would go to our parents and we would beg and plead with them to get us chocolate and ice cream. And if they gave us chocolate and ice cream, we were so happy about that we were so excited. But after doing that for a few days, eventually we asked our parents, can I have chocolate and ice cream? And they said, no, you can't have chocolate and ice cream. And we were so angry. We were so frustrated. That's because our craving, our desire, our attachment wasn't being fulfilled. We weren't getting what we wanted and what we were expecting. That's what was causing that anger and frustration. What the mind does in the unenlightened state is it craves permanence, wanting things to be permanent. But yet you live in an impermanent world. Everything around you is constantly changing. So when you come to understand this and you can see the truth for yourself, then you can actually get to a point where the mind's more and more peaceful, more and more joyful. So the Buddhist teachings aren't a bunch of beliefs and you're believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's also not rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. It's about learning about the world around you. It's about awakening or cultivating wisdom about the natural laws, understanding how your mind works and understanding how the world around you works. And by understanding this, you can navigate the world more peacefully. But when you live in a world that you don't understand, you'll have stress, you'll have anxiety, you'll have frustration, you'll have agitation, annoyance, and all these other discontent feelings. So we have different programs here that are helping you to be able to understand how to train the mind to let go and train the mind to awaken by cultivating wisdom, learning and growing and developing. Because that's what this meditation does, is this breathing mindfulness meditation is training your mind to let go. The goal here isn't to eliminate your thoughts. That's not what the meditation's for. Sometimes that's what people think based on the guidance in the meditation. The goal is to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and let them go easier and easier. Even when you're enlightened, you'll still have thoughts during your meditation. What you're doing here is you're building wholesome qualities of mindfulness and concentration. That's actually qualities that you need in your day-to-day life, is to have awareness of your mind and to be focused and concentrated. That's actually going to help you to make wise decisions in your day-to-day life. And then you're also eliminating the unwholesome quality of craving, desire, attachment, where the mind's holding on and craving permanence. So if 10, 15, 20, 30 times during your meditation, you had to let go and come back to the breath, this is actually very good for your mind because your mind doesn't know how to let go. That's why when you broke up with that boyfriend or girlfriend, you were angry and frustrated for a period of time because you were holding on. You wanted them to be in your life, but they weren't in your life. And your mind was holding on and holding on and holding on. And as long as you were holding on, you were maybe agitated or frustrated or angry, or maybe you were lonely or bored or missing this person. But at some point, your mind let go. And you were like, you know what? If she wants to live somewhere else, so be it. Or if he wants to be with somebody else, so be it. And your mind let go. And that's where your peace and joy came back. So this meditation is training your mind to be able to let go. And more in your day-to-day life, you'll be able to do that. And you'll get to a point where your mind's always peaceful and always joyful. So the different programs we have here to be able to help you understand the path to enlightenment, we have Sunday and Wednesday, which is called our group learning program. This is really good for people who are just starting out on the path to enlightenment. In fact, tomorrow is only the second day of that course, where I'm going to be teaching from this book. I'm going to be teaching the very first teaching of the Buddha. I'm going to be teaching what's called the Four Noble Truths tomorrow. This is where in 4 simple statements, you'll be able to understand the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. Each Sunday, I go chapter by chapter in this book over a 7-month period, helping students to be able to understand the path to enlightenment. And you can learn here in Chiang Mai, but we also live stream all of our classes, so you can learn that way too. So Sunday and Wednesdays are great for people just starting out. We also have courses and retreats that you can attend. We have a retreat starting on Sunday at 3 p.m. On Sunday also at 6:30 p.m. We have meditation here at the classroom here. We have classes tomorrow at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. So we have a bulletin board there. We have a website that you can see all the different options to learn. On Saturday, what we do is called our Pali Canon and English Study Group. What the Pali Canon is the largest, most complete collection of the teachings of the Buddha. It's assembled into 45 volumes of books that are about this thick. And this is how we understand the teachings of the Buddha. We learn those teachings, investigate them, examine them. We then reflect on them to verify, are they true or are they false? And then we practice those teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. And that's where you see real improvement to the condition of your mind in your life. So while all these other programs really help you to lay down a really nice foundation and kind of create a framework for yourself, this particular program helps you to fill that in. This isn't where someone would normally start, but it's okay if this is your first time here. You'll learn plenty today, but just understand there's other programs that are more well suited for you, because in those programs I teach like 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I open up for questions. I teach another 15, 20, 30 minutes. I open up for questions. That's a more traditional way of teaching. In this particular program, it's more of a study group. What I do is I invite students here at the temple, and those of you guys that are online, to be able to read one of the chapters that we have available here. So this is one of the books that I'm exploring with students now. We're actually in this particular book, which is titled Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. This is a collection of the teachings of the Buddha around meditation. So we're actually in chapter 11, and we're going to be inviting people here and online to be able to read this. If you look at this, you can see that it's a very short chapter here. And if you read this, then after you read it, I will share some teachings on that. And then I'm going to open up to whatever questions people have. Whether you're here at the temple or you're online, you can ask questions. So if you're here at the temple, you have questions or you would like to volunteer to read, we have microphones in the white bowl there in the middle of the room. We also have some up here in the front. All you need to do is get a microphone, press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on. If you hold this up to your chin, we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with them. And if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then anybody who's online, if you have questions, you can put that into the comment section of Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or if you're in Zooming electronically, raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like that way. And you can also volunteer to read that way as well. So is there anybody here or online that would like to volunteer to read this first chapter? Vibhav, yeah, go for it.
Chapter 11. Concentration by mindfulness of breathing leads to the destruction of the taints. Monks, concentration by mindfulness of breathing mindfulness meditation, when developed and cultivated, leads to the destruction of the taints, fetters. And how, monks, is concentration by mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated so that it leads to the destruction of the taints? Here, monks, a monk, having gone to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or to an empty hut, sits down. Having folded his legs crosswise, straightened his body, and set a mindfulness in front of him, just mindfully breathes in, mindfully breathes out. Breathing in long, he knows, I breathe in long. Or breathing out long, he knows, I breathe out long. Breathing in short, he knows, I breathe in short. Or breathing out short, he knows, I breathe out short. He trains thus. Experiencing the whole body, repeat as chapter 1. He trains thus, reflecting on letting go, I will breathe in. He trains thus, reflecting on letting go, I will breathe out. It is in this way, monks, that concentration by mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated so that it leads to the destruction of the taints. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Vibhav. So this is chapter 11. Back in chapter 1, there's a very long, detailed list of exactly how the Buddha would guide his students in meditation. That's something that's helpful for you to be able to understand how the Buddha taught meditation. We have the details of what the Buddha taught. Oftentimes, people aren't studying with the original words of the Buddha. This is why you see so many misunderstandings in the world. This is why you see rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer, because people don't understand what the Buddha actually shared during his lifetime. But if you get back to the original teachings of the Buddha and you study his original teachings, teachings, you can see what did he teach and what he didn't teach. And then you'll know for yourself, and then you can actually learn that. You can investigate it and examine it. You can reflect on it to verify, is it true or if it's false? And then you can practice those teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. That's where you see the real results occurring. Remember, it's not about belief. It's about training your mind. And what he's giving you is the guidance of how to train your mind. Nobody ever gave you an instruction manual for this being who you are. And nowadays, pretty much everything has an instruction manual, but nobody gave us an instruction manual for this right here. This microphone probably has an instruction manual, this computer, this camera, all these things have instruction manuals, but nobody gave us an instruction manual for this. Right? That's what the Buddha is giving you, is he's helping you to understand how this being functions. How does this mind function? And what's the best way to actually train it so you can get to this point where it's completely peaceful and joyful? So back in chapter 1, we have the detailed guidance of how the Buddha guided students in meditation. I actually summarize that and consolidate it when I guide students here in order to be able to help you guys to get started. But what the Buddha is saying in this particular chapter is he's saying this concentration by mindfulness of breathing, which is this meditation that we just did, when developed and cultivated, leads to the destruction of the taints or the fetters. What this is 10 individual pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind, that this is why the mind is experiencing anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings. It's also why you keep experiencing rebirth and keep coming back into the world over and over and over and over again. So what the Buddha is guiding you to do with all of his teachings is how to uproot those pollutions out of the mind. They're referred to as taints or pollution or defilement because it's defiling the mind. One of the ways you might think about it is if there's the sun and there's clouds in front of the sun, well, if you peel away those clouds, the rays of the sun can shine through. And it's really wonderful to have the rays of the sun shining on the body, right? But if you have clouds in front of the sun, you can't experience that. It's dark, it's gloomy. That's the way it is inside the unenlightened mind. When you've got all these pollutions or these fetters or these taints inside the mind, it's very gloomy. Life can seem very miserable sometimes, walking around in the unenlightened state. But when you clear that out, wow, the light's on now. It's really bright. The mind's bright and cheerful and glad and uplifted. But when you have those pollutions in there, it's very difficult to go through life. So the Buddha refers to them as taints or defilements or pollutions. When he talks about them in detail, he talks about them as the fetters. That's why I put the word fetter here, so people would understand what that means. What a fetter is during the lifetime of the Buddha, if you were someone that they were trying to keep confined to a certain area, they would attach a fetter around your ankle. What that is a shackle and a chain and a ball. So this would be like a prisoner or a criminal, where today we put criminals in jail cells or in prison cells, where during the lifetime of the Buddha, they would attach a fetter around your ankle. This was a shackle and a chain and a ball, and it would keep this person confined or trapped in a certain area. So these pollutions, they're fetters. They're keeping the mind trapped in the unenlightened state, continuing to experience anger and sadness and frustration over and over and over and over and over again. So what the Buddha is saying here is that this breathing mindfulness meditation, it leads to the elimination of these fetters, the uprooting of them, the destruction of them. This is what's going to help you to eliminate them out of the mind. There's other things you need besides this meditation, but this is one of the things that you need as part of your practice in order to be able to train the mind and get these pollutions out of the mind so the mind can be bright and cheerful and glad and uplifted, experiencing more and more of the qualities of the enlightened mental state. Because those clouds that come away from the sun and the sun shining through, you can do the same thing for your mind. One of the ways to think about this is, yes, that you're attaining enlightenment, but another way to think about it is that the mind is already enlightened, that you just need to get these pollutions out of the way. And when you get these pollutions out of the way, you'll experience more and more of the qualities of the enlightened mental state. The only difference in the analogy here is that the clouds are going to eventually come back and block the sun again. But by the time you get these pollutions out of the mind, they won't come back. It's not possible for them to actually come back into the mind once you've eliminated them. So this meditation is an important part of that. And the Buddha is giving guidance on how to actually do that. So here we can see the guidance of his meditation, where he's talking about going to the forest, to the foot of a tree, to an empty hut, this person sits down. Even though the Buddha taught 4 positions, he's usually guiding based on the seated position. Then he said, okay, folding your legs crosswise. You can really sit however you like, but he's, kind of talking about this. This is kind of general guidance. Straighten up your body, right? That's what I was explaining to you. Lifting up your sternum, putting your shoulders back. This helps keep the mind attentive and alert. Then you set up mindfulness in front of you. What mindfulness is awareness of mind. You're not interested in just plopping down into meditation and starting to meditate because your mind doesn't really have awareness at that point. It's going to take you 5, 10, 15 minutes to start getting benefit during your meditation. You would like to bring some general awareness to the mind before you start meditating. That's what I do with chanting. Chanting helps you to bring awareness to the mind. During the lifetime of the Buddha, it was used as a learning tool, as a learning device to commit the teachings to memory. Where today we have videos like YouTube, we have podcasts and books and audiobooks. We don't need to do chanting in order to remember the teachings because we just study those materials. Where during the lifetime of the Buddha, they didn't have that. So they used chanting in order to help them with that. Where today, what we use it for is to ease the mind in the meditation, because what it does is it brings this awareness to the mind. So if you're not going to do chanting, some people aren't interested in chanting, you don't need to do chanting. During the lifetime of the Buddha, you had to chant in order to be able to get to enlightenment. But during these times, you don't have to. But if you're not going to chant, just be sure you set up mindfulness in front of you. Bring some general awareness to your mind before you start meditating. Then start breathing. What you're doing here is you're establishing the breath. Right at the very beginning, that's what we focused on, just establishing that nice, steady, gradual, consistent breath, that natural breath. That doesn't mean to breathe the way that you're currently breathing. It means to develop a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. You'd like a real slow, gradual inhale through the nose and a really nice, gradual exhale through the nose. And then what the Buddha ultimately shares here is getting the mind fixated onto the breath. That was the next part that we did. We started fixating the mind onto the breath because the breath is like a post or a pillar that you fixate the mind to, because the mind's going to want to be in the past or it's going to want to be in the future. It doesn't want to sit down and just be in the present moment and be peaceful and content. It wants to run around and do all this other stuff. Right? So what you're doing is saying, no, get back over here. And now you're bringing it to this post or this pillar. The breath is that post or pillar. That's the anchor point that you're fixating the mind to. And now anytime the mind moves off of that, you don't see that here because we have it in chapter 1, but anytime the mind moves off of there, you cut that off and let it go and you come back to the breath. That's going to help your mind learn how to let go. And this is going to help soften up the mind because those fetters, those pollutions that are in the mind has to let go of them. So that's why the Buddha is saying this particular meditation is helping you to eliminate or destroy the pollutions, the taints, the fetters, because the mind is holding on to this pollution. And the mind needs to learn how to let it go. And there's various times where you can learn more about what those pollutions are. In fact, this retreat that I'm going to be teaching coming up this week, I'm going to be spending an hour to an hour and a half on each one of the fetters, helping people understand what it is, to understand the symptoms of it, how to eliminate it, and how to know that you've actually eliminated it. So do you guys have any questions here on this chapter? Anything you'd like to ask? We have a question coming in on YouTube. Michelle is actually asking, where should I draw in my breath? Should I draw it into my chest, to my lungs, or should I draw it into my stomach, to my abdomen? Well, there's no way for you to bring air into your abdomen. People who are talking about abdominal breathing, all they're doing is they're flexing their muscles around their stomach. When you're breathing, it's coming into your lungs. If somebody is literally expanding their stomach while they're breathing, that's not the air that's doing that. That's the actual muscles that are doing that. So you would like to breathe into the lungs. So you're focusing the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin. That's the fixating point. But you're drawing the air into the lungs. That's the only place for the air to go. There's no other anatomy here that allows us to bring air into our stomach other than, breathing in through the mouth and now try to take it a gulp into the stomach. But when we're breathing, it's coming into the lungs. So that's where you would like to breathe. I don't see any other questions anywhere. Okay. So let's go to the next chapter, which is chapter 12. By the way, you've got the words of the Buddha here. You have a reference that takes you back to the original source teachings. This is the Pali Canon. These books, they're excerpts of the Pali Canon. And now this reference takes you back to the original source teachings so you can see where this came from. Then you can have confidence that this is the words of the Buddha. And then this is words from me that are helping you to be able to understand how to integrate this teaching into your day-to-day life and actually get the most benefit from it. Sir, you'd like to read? Yeah, go for it. Or you have a question? Okay.
Hello. Yes.
Is that Lyndon? Hey, Lyndon.
Yes.
What's up, buddy?
Follow-up question on the breathing, like to the stomach versus like nostril area. Like, cause like to me, I feel like the nostril, the sensation is pretty subtle, and sometimes it's really hard to kind of put my awareness or attention to that, and I can lose like the attention really easy. But like if to the stomach, it's much easier for me. Like you can feel it's like, because it's like feel like a more obvious to me. So my question is like, did like a Buddha mention like a particular areas? Because from like the chapter is just saying I will breathe in, I will breathe out. But like, did he mention exactly how where the awareness should go? Should it go to the nose or should it go to the other areas?
I'm sure he did during his lifetime, but we don't see it in the Pali Canon anywhere. But I can share with you what I've always done during the practice that has led to the mental state that I'm experiencing is that I focus on the sound of the breath or the sensation of air moving over the skin. That's the anchor point. That's what I would suggest for people. People who are saying that they're focused on the abdomen and they're doing abdominal breathing, there's no ability to take in air through the abdomen. It's not possible. You're bringing it into the lungs. And then some people even choose to focus on the chest because all of this isn't something that's going to lead you to being able to cut off and let go. You need that internal mechanism built within your mind to be able to do that. So focusing on the air coming into the nose or over the skin of the nose. And then some people, they don't have a nose, right? Because of impermanence, not everybody has a nose. So they might be breathing in through the mouth or they might be breathing in through their trachea, but there's at least a sound there or there's a sensation of air. That's what you would like to focus on.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Would you like to read this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Great fruit and the benefits of a breathing mindfulness meditation. Monks, one thing when developed and cultivated is of a great fruit and benefits. What one thing? Mindfulness of a breathing mindfulness meditation. And how, monks, is mindfulness of breathing mindfulness meditation developed and cultivated so that it is a great fruit and benefits. Here, monks, a monk having gone to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or to empty hut, sit down, having folded his leg crosswise, straighten his body and set up mindfulness in front of him. Just mindful, he breathed in. Mindful, he breathed out. Breathing in long, he knows I breathe in long. Or breathing out long, he knows I breathe out long. Breathing in short, he knows I breathe in short. Or breathing out short, he knows I breathe out short. He chants thus, experiencing the whole body. Repeat as at chapter 1. He chants thus, reflecting on letting go, I will breathe in. He chants thus, reflecting on letting go, I will breathe out. It is, monks, when mindfulness of a breathing mindfulness meditation is developed and cultivated in this way that it is of great fruit and benefit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So this is another discourse, which is very similar to the previous one, where the Buddha was being more specific in the previous discourse, where he's saying this breathing mindfulness meditation, it leads to the elimination of the taints or the pollutions or those fetters. Where here he's just talking very broadly, very generally. He's saying, hey, it's of great fruit and benefit, right? The Buddha is going to be teaching in different ways, in different situations. So maybe in one situation, he describes, hey, this meditation, it's of great fruit and benefit, kind of talking about it more generally. In other situations, he's going to say, hey, it leads to the destruction of the taints, because maybe that audience understands what that is, where the other audience maybe didn't understand what that is. So he's talked more generally or more broadly. So it's the same guidance, the same detail, but he's leading into this meditation with a different part of kind of speaking more broadly or more in more detail. So any questions on this chapter here? No questions? Okay, you're welcome, Michelle. Pleased to help you. So let's go to this next one here. Let's see what this one is. This one is very similar to the one that we just read. So this first part is very similar to what Lyndon just read. And then the Buddha is going into some more detail here. So maybe we can just read this detail. Would somebody like to read this? Yes, ma'am.
Mind liberated from the taint, I two monks before my enlightenment while I was still unawakened, but intent on awakening, not yet fully enlightened, generally dwelt in this dwelling. While I generally dwelt in this dwelling, neither my body nor my eyes became fatigued, and my mind, by not clinging, was liberated from the taint's fetters. Therefore, monks, if a monk aspires, may neither my body nor my eyes become fatigued, and may my mind, by not clinging, be liberated from the taints. This same concentration by mindfulness of breathing mindfulness meditation should be closely attended to.
Okay, would you mind reading some of this too?
Yes, of course. Abandoning the memorize and the intention connected with the household life. Therefore, monks, if a monk aspires, may the memorize and the intentions connected with the household life be abandoned by me. This same concentration by mindfulness of breathing mindfulness meditation should be closely attended to.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I'm going to talk about this and then we can move on from there. So here the Buddha is in a rare situation talking about before his enlightenment, right? Because he wasn't born enlightened. He actually needed to train his mind to get to that point. He was born just like you, just like me. He experienced anger and sadness and frustration and all these other things. It's just that he figured out on his own how to eliminate that from the mind. And that's what he then spent the rest of his life from the age of 35 to 80, helping people to understand what it takes to be able to train the mind to get to enlightenment. So he's talking about before he was enlightened, he was still unawakened, but intent on awakening. He was determined, he was dedicated to get to enlightenment. He wasn't yet fully enlightened. He generally dwelt in this dwelling. Well, what's that dwelling that he dwelt in? While I generally dwelt in this dwelling, neither my body nor my mind became fatigued, and my mind, by not clinging, was liberated from the fetters. So the dwelling that he's talking about that he dwelled in is breathing mindfulness meditation. That's what he actually dwelled in. That by doing so, by training his mind through breathing mindfulness meditation, he got to a point where his body and his mind weren't fatigued. Because in the unenlightened state, you'll get exhausted. You'll get utterly tired. You will go out into the world and you will chase and chase and chase and chase and chase, and you'll get to the end of your day and you'll be exhausted. You'll feel like you have heavy bricks on your feet or heavy bricks on your shoulders, right? Because you're out there chasing and you're carrying around that burden. Or you'll swing all the way to the other side and you'll be dull and lethargic and tired and lazy. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you're in the middle and you're gradually pursuing things as a goal, objective, or interest. No matter what's going on in your life, you're gradually building your life. You're gradually making wiser and wiser decisions from the middle way. You're not chasing and you're not dull and lethargic either. So therefore, at the end of your day, you never experience any heaviness. You don't experience the exhaustion that a person in the unenlightened state would experience. In the enlightened mental state, you get sleepy where you need to take a sleep. You need to get some rest in order to be able to rest the mind and rest the body, but you don't get exhausted. You don't get tired. No matter what you're doing during your day, it just doesn't happen because you're no longer carrying that burden of chasing things around. So the Buddha's kind of cluing in on that and talking about getting to this liberation where it's the breathing mindfulness meditation that's leading to this liberation. He refers to enlightenment as liberation because once you get rid of those pollutions out of the mind is free. That's what it means to be liberated, that you're free. It's like if you're in a prison and somebody liberates you, you're now free from that prison. So it's the same thing that when you get rid of these pollutions out of your mind, you're liberated. The mind is liberated because when your mind's angry and sad and frustrated, your mind's all bound up. The mind is like in a prison that it's only a matter of time before you become angry and frustrated about something. But when you get to enlightenment, your mind is liberated. So he's talking about how this breathing mindfulness meditation is something that he attended to closely, that he did regularly. So if somebody aspires, if a monk aspires to be able to get to this point where you're not exhausted and you're not fatigued, and you aspire to get to this point where your mind's liberated, where it's free, where it's peaceful and joyful, you're going to need to practice breathing mindfulness meditation. That's what he's talking about here. And then down here, he's talking about getting rid of these memories and intentions connected to the household life. During the lifetime of the Buddha, what people would do is they would leave their household life in order to become ordained, and they would live in this life of homelessness to be able to train their mind to get to enlightenment. You can get to enlightenment through that household life. There's no reason why you can't. It's just that you need to really pay attention to your discipline and some other things as well. You need to have a lot of wisdom to be able to train your mind to get to enlightenment through the household life. But it was a lot harder actually to get to enlightenment in the household life during the lifetime of the Buddha, because those people actually had a lot of things that they needed to do in order to just sustain their life. You know, they were carrying water back and forth from the well, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. It would take them half a day just to load up their house with water, right? Or just to get food. It was very challenging. You had to go to the store, buy seeds, bring them home, plant them, take care of them. You had to harvest it. You had to bring it inside. You had to prepare it. You know, nowadays we don't realize how easy we really have it. You know, we just walk over to the sink and we turn a knob and boom, we have water. It wasn't always like that in the world, right? Or we just walk down the street and we can get some food in just a few minutes. Boom, we've got food. In fact, we have so much time in our life, in the household life, that most people fill it up with unbeneficial things, right? People might be scrolling social media for hours and hours and hours, or watching YouTube videos hours and hours and hours. I would suggest you scale that stuff back and start putting things into your life that is beneficial, that is helpful for you, that builds your life up, right? You can still do those things. There's no harm in looking at social media and watching videos and things like that, but make sure you have your life really well balanced, where you have some beneficial things that are going on in your life. You actually have time to study the teachings of the Buddha. You have time to meditate, where household practitioners during the lifetime of the Buddha, they didn't necessarily have that. So what the Buddha is teaching them here is those people who left the household life and they're ordained with him is to leave those memories behind. Because one of the things that the unenlightened mind is really good at is dwelling in the past, or longing, yearning for something to happen in the future. So if you've had this very pleasurable or even painful household life, and now you're ordained with the Buddha, and you're now living this life with him, training your mind might be dwelling in the past, might be keep going to the past and thinking about all those pleasurable things that you had, and now you're feeling disgruntled and frustrated that you don't have those things anymore. Or maybe you had some very painful things happening in your past, and now in the present moment, you're thinking about those things in the past. Nothing's happened. You're just here in the present moment, but your mind's experiencing anger and frustration. That's because you're looking to the past and you're wanting it to have been different than it was. Your mind is longing, yearning. You're craving permanence, where you can train your mind to let that go. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you will always have memories of the things that you've done in the past. But what you need to do is train your mind to let go of dwelling in the past, where your mind is forming feelings based on things that happened in the past. So whether it was pleasurable or painful, your past is in the past. You can't change that. All you can do is in the present moment, train your mind to not form feelings based on what's happened in the past. That's what the Buddha is teaching you to be able to do. So you'll always have memories of the things that happen in your life, whether it was pleasurable or painful, but you need to be able to train your mind to let go and no longer form feelings based on those things in the past. Sometimes people call this trauma. You might have heard this before. And people think that for some reason they can't get over it. And they're always going to have this. And they're always going to experience this sadness and misery or this pain based on things that happened in the past. This isn't true. It's not like your mind has been imprinted and that's permanent. It's not permanent. You can actually train your mind to let that stuff go and get to a point where you can be peaceful and joyful. No need to keep revisiting those painful experiences and now forming feelings today based on those. You can train your mind to let that go and realize that it's in the past and now experience peace and joy in the present moment. So that's why the Buddha is teaching his students to be able to leave behind them the past, that their mind doesn't dwell there any longer. So any questions on either of these two things? Looks like we have a bunch coming in. Let's see here. Looks like Michelle's asking, let me just do something here. Okay, she's got a bunch of questions here. She says, short and long breath is the speaking of knowing sometimes his breath pattern changes on its own while he's meditating. Sorry, lagging behind. Oh, so what the Buddha's talking about by knowing whether your breath is short or long is he's talking about fixating the mind on the breath, is to know the breath. Because all of our bodies are different. Some of us are going to breathe shorter. Some of us are going to breathe longer. So the capacity of lung air that we have is going to be different from person to person. So that's why some of us will breathe shorter. Some of us will breathe longer. But in terms of the pace of your breath, the volume is going to be different, but the pace of our breath can actually be very similar, because you would like to train the body to be able to breathe very slow and very gradual. So I'm going to use this mic. I think you guys will be able to hear this online too. I'm going to breathe into this mic so you guys can hear the pace of the breath. Again, the volume is going to be different from person to person, but the pace can be similar. So I'm going to breathe into this so you can hear how I breathe during meditation, because you would like your breath to really be this slow, because that's what's going to slow your mind down. Because in the unenlightened state, your mind is really fast. It's like go, 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 go. That's the craving, desire, attachment. But if you can slow the breath down and you can fixate the mind to the breath, then it'll actually slow your mind down, and you'll actually be able to make better decisions in your day-to-day life and experience better results. So here's the pace of the breath that you would like to take when you're meditating. Okay, so very slow, gradual breath. This is what's going to slow your mind down, because the mind's racing. It's go, 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 go. And people think that they're actually accomplishing more, but you're actually not, because you're making all kinds of mistakes. You're tripping over your feet, and now you got to come back and clean all that stuff up later. But instead, if you slow down and you make wise decisions, now you don't make any unwise decisions. You don't have anything to clean up. you can just make forward progress, forward progress, forward progress. But if you're tripping over your feet, you're making all kinds of unwise decisions, you're saying things to people that you regret later, you're making decisions that you regret later, now you got to come back and clean all that stuff up so you're not making forward progress. This is one of the reasons why enlightened beings are actually very successful in life, because they're always making forward progress. They don't have to go back and clean anything up. Each individual decision that they're making is very wise, and it's leading to wholesome results in their day-to-day life. So you can get to that point, but this is one of the keys to being able to do that, to slow the mind down. And some more from Michelle. She's saying, should we stay conscious to keep the breath pattern at the same length, inhale and exhale? The length of the breath really doesn't matter, whether it's long or short. It really doesn't matter. What's important is the pace. So that's why I just did what I did, Michelle, is to be able to help people to see what the pace of the breath is. That's something that I actually needed to train the body to do. I was breathing very rapid at first, and it was very challenging to slow down. So I had to, for about a week or so, just train the body to be able to breathe. So what I would do is I would just sit there with my eyes open, and I would focus on breathing very slowly, because the body and the mind felt like if I wasn't breathing at a certain pace that I would die, right? I didn't feel like I was getting enough air. So I needed to train the body and the mind to be comfortable with this slower breath. And then when you're breathing in, it's a nice long inhale, nice and gradual. And then there's like a little gap there between the inhale and the exhale. There's a gap where you're not breathing in, you're not breathing out, and being comfortable with that gap and understanding that that's okay. And then breathing out really gradually and really slowly. This will really help you. So you might need to do some breathing exercises where I would kind of sit there for just like 10 minutes and just focus on breathing. And then if I was breathing well, then I would close my eyes and then start trying to fixate the mind to the breath. So initially, for the first week or so, I would just sit there and just breathe and just try to get the breath going, because that's the foundation of your meditation. So you would like to just be working with the breath and really build that up. And then if you feel comfortable, add in focusing the mind on the breath. And then over time, you'll have that slow, gradual breathing with you. Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions anywhere. So let's read this part here. Would somebody like to read this one? Sure. Go ahead, Rachel.
Avoiding both the unrepulsive and the repulsive. Residing equanimous, mindful, and clearly comprehending. Therefore, monks, if a monk aspires, may I reside perceiving the repulsive in the unrepulsive. This same concentration by mindfulness of breathing, breathing mindfulness meditation, should be closely attended to. If a monk aspires, may I reside perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive. This same concentration by mindfulness of breathing, breathing mindfulness meditation, should be closely attended to. If a monk aspires, may I reside perceiving the repulsive in the unrepulsive and the repulsive. This same concentration by mindfulness of breathing should be closely attended to. If a monk aspires, may I reside perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive and the unrepulsive. This same concentration by mindfulness of breathing should be closely attended to. If a monk aspires, avoiding both the unrepulsive and the repulsive, may I reside equanimous, mindful, and clearly comprehending. This same concentration by mindfulness of breathing should be closely attended to.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So the thing that the Buddha discovered about the unenlightened mind is it chases after pleasure. It's chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing. And again, if you get what you want, you get really happy and excited about that. But if you don't get what you want, you're angry and frustrated. So you might be chasing after money. You might be chasing after a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend. You might be chasing after clothes or jewelry or something like this, a new job. Again, what the unenlightened mind does is it either chases or it swings all the way to the other side where it's dull and lethargic and lazy. What you need to be able to learn how to do and train the mind to do is gradually pursue your goals, objectives, or interests through wise decisions, and then not form your feelings based on that particular thing. So what the Buddha teaches you is to help you understand that the mind is having craving, desire, attachment. It's chasing after agreeable contact. The mind experiences contact through the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and then the mind itself. That when you experience contact coming through these senses that is agreeable to you, or here the Buddha is using the term unrepulsive, if you find it to be agreeable to you, then you'll get really happy and excited, right? Like if you hear a certain sound, like a music, and you're like, wow, that's my jam. All right. You're like so excited and so party, right? Yeah, let's go, right? That's agreeable to you. So you get really happy and excited. But you're going to hear things through your ear that is disagreeable to you. And now you're angry and you're frustrated. Maybe it's a different type of music that you don't typically listen to. It's not the music that's causing you to be angry or frustrated. It's the mind itself, because the mind is longing, yearning. It wants permanently agreeable contact through the ear in this example. So what the Buddha teaches you to do is to be able to see that this agreeable contact that you're having, it's not permanent. You're not going to be able to have that permanently. So don't grab onto it expecting it to be permanent. But also this disagreeable contact, that's not permanent either. Right? So you can train your mind to not form feelings based on this. You need more than just what I'm sharing with you here. Again, this isn't where somebody would normally start their journey on the path to enlightenment. Tomorrow is a much better class for that. But nonetheless, since we're here talking about this, the mind's got this agreeable contact and this disagreeable contact. This disagreeable contact, the mind's trying to push it away. The mind doesn't want that. Right? So what the Buddha is teaching you to be able to do is to be able to see this agreeable contact as disagreeable. Or here he's saying this unrepulsive contact, to see it as repulsive. Because if you allow your mind to get conditioned pleasant feelings, it's only a matter of time before the painful ones come. And this disagreeable contact over here, see that as agreeable, right? Like you hear that music, maybe you don't listen to that music. You're like, you know what? I don't listen to that music, but I can see why that guy's having a good time. I'm pleased that they're having a good time. You know what? Let me reside equanimous. Let me reside mindful and aware and clearly comprehending my own mind. Don't let me drift down into the depths of anger and frustration just because that guy's listening to music that I don't particularly listen to. You know, this is an impermanent situation. They're going to be driving away in 3 minutes when the light turns green. I don't need to be angry or frustrated. I can just reside peaceful and calm. But if you're chasing after the agreeable, and you're repulsed by the disagreeable, that means you can only be happy when you're getting what you want. So you would like to get to a point where you understand that this agreeable stuff that you're experiencing, sure, let's enjoy that. Let's enjoy the agreeable contact. You can enjoy things in life. In fact, an enlightened being is enjoying things way more than an unenlightened being. An unenlightened being can only enjoy things when things are going your way. That's the only time you can enjoy things. But an enlightened being, they can actually enjoy no matter what's going on, no matter what's happening. They can enjoy everything. So an enlightened being is actually enjoying things way more than an unenlightened being, because the unenlightened being can only enjoy things when things are happening their way. If my mom and dad are doing this, if my brothers and sisters are doing this, if my boss is doing this, if the weather is this, if I have this much money in my bank account and I have this type of house and this kind of car, then I'll be happy, right? So your happiness is actually shrinking. An unenlightened being, that's what they're going to experience. But an enlightened being, they can be happy no matter what the weather is, no matter what their bank account is, no matter what their mom or dad or boss or brothers and sisters are doing. They can be happy no matter what. So this here is helping you to be able to understand how to do that. The breathing mindfulness meditation is helping you to be able to train your mind to let go, so that you don't chase after the agreeable and you're pushing away the disagreeable. That's what the Buddha is talking about here, that your mind can reside equanimous. That's what you ultimately would like to get to. What equanimity is where the mind has calmness and composure. There's evenness of temper, especially in a difficult situation. You won't have that in the unenlightened state. Like if you got a phone call right now that somebody close to you was in a terrible car accident, maybe your mom or dad, and they're being rushed to the hospital in the back of an ambulance, your mind might be all shaken up by that. That's because your mind's craving your mom and dad to be permanently healthy, where it's not possible. They can't be permanently healthy. People think it's their love that's causing their mind to be shaken up during that period of time, but it's not. It's your mind craving permanence, not understanding that your mom and dad are impermanent. Someday they're going to die. Someday you're going to die. None of this is permanent here. So if you're holding on and craving permanence, when all of that stuff is changing, and it will change because you live in an impermanent world, your mind will be all shaken up by that. But what you would like to do is get to a point where you can have calmness and composure. You can understand mom and dad, they've been in a terrible car accident. They're on their way to the hospital. Wonderful. That's exactly where they would need to go. And I'm going to calmly make my way to the hospital so that I can talk to the doctors and nurses and figure out how to help them. But if your mind's all shaken up, you're going to rush across town, maybe get into an accident yourself, maybe show up at the hospital. Your mind's all shaken up, right? You can't even talk to the doctors and nurses and help your parents because your mind's all shaken up. So you'd like to maintain this calmness and composure, especially in a difficult situation. That's what the Buddha is teaching you of equanimity or being equanimous. This is a meditation that's helping you to do that. There's, again, other things besides this meditation that you need, but this is one component of the overall path that the Buddha is teaching you of how to train your mind to get to this point where you can just always be calm and peaceful and joyful. Your mind can be bright and cheerful and glad and uplifted at all times. So any questions here on what I've been sharing so far? All right. I don't see any questions here either. So what I'm going to do then is just in class, like I typically do, by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to learn more, there's plenty of opportunities for you to do that. I recommend tomorrow as a great place to get started. Tomorrow, I'm going to be sharing the very first teaching of the Buddha. That's where you really need to get started on the path, where in 4 simple statements, I'm going to walk you through, helping you to see how to verify the teachings of the Buddha, to be able to independently verify what's going on in your mind. Because in these 4 simple statements, in a way that you can independently verify, the Buddha explains to you the problem, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. And I'm going to show you how to do this in a way that you can independently verify, because then you can actually implement the solution and fix it. If you don't understand why your mind experiences anger and sadness and frustration and all these other feelings, you'll never be able to fix it. It's not the outside world. People will blame their feelings on other people, but it's not other people that are causing these feelings. And once you understand more thoroughly what is causing these feelings, then you can apply the solution. So perhaps I might see you in tomorrow's class, or any of the other options you can see on our bulletin board over there, or you can see on our website as well. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you next time. Take care. Sawadee-khap. Sawadee-khap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.